Hello. This week's Torah portion is Chayye Sarah, the life of Sarah. It is the only portion bearing a woman's name. Sarah just died at 127 of grief when she saw her husband Abraham come back from the mountain without their son Isaac, and concluded Isaac must have died. She is the only biblical woman whose age is mentioned. Abraham must now bury Sarah. He had been a wanderer in the land for 62 years. The Torah says, quote, Abraham spoke to the Hittites, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me burial property so that I may bury my dead. And the Hittites answered, Listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the best of our graves. None of us will withhold his grave from you. And Abraham stood up and bowed to the Hittites and said, If it is your will that I bury my dead, intercede for me with Ephron the Hittite, Ephron ben Zohar, that he may give me the Cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him. Let him give it to me as burial property for full price. Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham, No, my lord, listen to me. I am giving you the fields and the cave that is in it. I am giving it to you. Before the eyes of the sons of my people, I am giving it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, saying, But if only you would listen to me. I am giving you the money for the fields. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron replied, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron and gave Ephron 400 shekels of silver. Unquote. Welcome to the Middle East. If you understand this story, you understand the Middle East. This was a typical scene in a typical Middle Eastern bazaar. Consider. Everybody is polite, outwardly friendly, and hospitable. Everybody flatters everybody else in public. Abraham is called Nesi Elokim, a prince of God, and Adoni, my lord. There are loud and exaggerated expressions of friendship, such as, What is this matter between me and you? Meaning, between two great friends such as the two of us, shall we even talk about money? Your happiness and satisfaction are the only thing that counts. Never mind the fact that we just met and belong to two different ethnic groups. Listen to me, Shema Eni, means don't listen to me. People don't speak their true minds. Ephron never intended to give away his property. In fact, he exacted a very high price for it. Ephron said, I give it to you, take it. He said it 3 times. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. Always let the shopkeeper quote a price first. People love to gather and watch others argue and negotiate. It's a free show, and negotiations are frequently disguised. Yes, they negotiated. Listen, Abraham clearly says at the outset he wants to buy just the cave. But Ephron responds, I am giving you the field and the cave that is in it. Translation, sorry, you have to buy the field also. Package deal or no deal. Ephron says, bury your dead. Translation, I know you need it fast. I know Jewish tradition says you must bury the dead quickly. So you're in a poor bargaining position. Ephron says, let's not haggle over something worth only 400 shekels of silver. Ephron talks as if the price is low, but it is really exorbitant. He takes advantage of Abraham's grief. How do we know the price is exorbitant? Well, later, King David pays only 1/8 of that, 50 shekels, to buy a site on which to build the temple. And the prophet Jeremiah pays only 17 shekels of silver for an entire field. And King Omri pays only 6,000 shekels for the entire territory of Samaria. Now, normally at this point, serious negotiations would begin and the land would be sold for a fraction of the asking price. And we know Abraham can drive a hard bargain. We've seen him haggle with God himself over Sodom and Gomorrah. But Abraham immediately agrees to the price without haggling and pays. Maybe he is overcome with grief and is in no mood for bargaining. Maybe he feels it's an insult to Sarah's memory to haggle over the price of her grave. Maybe he feels he can afford it and doesn't bargain for sport. Maybe he feels it is beneath him to argue with such scoundrels as Ephron. Or maybe he knows the true value of the cave. Consider this. Ephron, no doubt, was laughing all the way to the bank after the deal. But if he had taken a peek in the Zohar, the book of Jewish mysticism, an anachronistic peek to be sure, he would have found out why Abraham had his heart set on this particular cave. Listen to the Zohar, if you're over 40. Quote, Rav Yehuda said, Abraham recognized the Cave of Machpelah by a certain mark, and he had long set his mind and heart on it. For he had once entered that cave and seen Adam and Eve buried there. He knew that they were Adam and Eve because he saw the form of man, and while he was gazing, a door opened into the Garden of Eden, and he perceived the same form standing near it. Now whoever looks at the form of Adam cannot escape death. For when a man is about to pass out of the world, he catches sight of Adam, and at that moment he dies. Abraham, however, did look at him and saw his form, and yet survived. He saw, moreover, a shining light that illumined the cave, and a lamp burning. Abraham then coveted that cave for his burial place, and his mind and heart were set upon it. Rabbi Shimon said, when Abraham brought Sarah in there for burial, Adam and Eve arose and refused to receive her. They said, Is not our shame already great enough before the Holy One in the other worlds on account of our sin, which brought death into the world, that you should come to shame us further with your good deeds? Abraham answered, I am already destined to make atonement for you before the Almighty, so that you may not be shamed before him any more. After taking upon himself this obligation, Abraham buried Sarah his wife. Adam then returned to his place, but not Eve, until Abraham came and placed her beside Adam, who received her for his sake. Unquote. So Abraham wanted that cave because it was the entrance to the Garden of Eden. He wanted to buy heaven. The most important part of this episode is that possession of the Promised Land began with a legal purchase in front of many witnesses. It was a purchase that was clearly eternal, because the dead are not going anywhere. This is why Torah dwells on it at length. So it was with the Zionist movement much later. The Jews bought the lands they settled, parcel by parcel. They felt the land may be ours by divine right, but we must still compensate, even generously, those who live there. Another teaching from this episode is that when Jews move to a new place, their first concern is to buy a plot of land for a cemetery. Tradition holds that 4 couples are buried at Machpelah, now known as the tomb of the patriarchs: Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. It is called Machpelah, meaning doubles, because it has 2 levels. It is the second holiest Jewish site after Temple Mount. What is the history of the Cave of Machpelah? In Hebrew, Ma'arat HaMachpelah. The building on the site was originally a synagogue, built 2,000 years ago. Then Byzantine and Crusader conquerors turned it into a church. Then Muslim conquerors turned it into a mosque. They did not allow Jews to enter it. Jews were allowed only up to the 7th step on the outside staircase. When Israel retook the area in 1967, it gave control of the site to Muslim authorities. Muslims have unlimited access, but not Jews. There are 3 rooms: Ohel Avraham, Ohel Yitzhak, and Ohel Yaakov. Jews can freely access Ohel Avraham and Ohel Yaakov, but have no access to Ohel Yitzhak, the largest one, except for 10 days a year. Over 300,000 people visit every year. The actual cave was uncovered several years ago under the building and revealed artifacts from 3,000 years ago, the early Israelite period. This strong link to Jewish history is why many Israelis insist on retaining that area. They call the city around it, as the Torah does, Kiryat Arba, the city of the 4, because 4 couples are buried there. It is a Jewish town where some 8,000 Jews live today. It is near Hebron, where close to 1,000 Jews live, surrounded by a sea of hostile Arabs. The irony is that if Jews own any part of the land of Israel, surely they own Machpelah, whose Jewish acquisition is fully detailed in Scripture. There is no theology there. Likewise, the Bible records the Jewish acquisition of both Joseph's tomb and Temple Mounts. Let us work to ensure that a final peace treaty between the Arabs and Israel does not relinquish Jewish rights to these three areas. Shabbat Shalom.